And welcome to the Red Leaf Retrocast Wrestling Edition. I'm your host JD, as usual, here to talk about all of the wrestling in the world that has gone on over the past couple weeks. And judging by demand, we have even more to talk about in this one. We got lots of Tessa Blanchard to talk about. We got an NXT episode. Yes, I watched a WWE event, ladies and gentlemen. Naturally, our Retro Wrestler Spotlight, continuing our journey through the NWA US Champions all the way into today of all the different wrestlers, assuming they're retired. Weekly wrestling recap featuring MLW and Beyond Wrestling's Uncharted territory, continuing that little journey. And from there, we go on to our other wrestling shows around the world. We got a bunch of Stardom, basically a whole month to go over. Bit slow, but also a bit awesome. WXW Drive of Champions. New Japan Pro Wrestling had a lot of the Kizuna Road, but we're going to stick to day 10. And of course, the Southern Showdown out in Melbourne in Australia. And we'll wrap up the wrestling with AEW's Fyter Fest, which was a really good show. And then wrapping up with our retro wrestling, WCW Nitro July 6th, 1998, the go-home show for Bash at the Beach in 1998. So that's going to be probably my most fun to talk about. But let's get everything going here. This is the Red Leaf Retrocast, found on all your favorite podcasting outlets such as Spotify, iTunes, and many more, including basically everything on Android. Just not SoundCloud. We're not going to be there. But you can check us out on Podbean. Leave some comments, subscribe. Also, the YouTube channel, Red Leaf Retrocast, where you can easily stream all past episodes, including ones that we had done live via Twitch. Also at BowlingJD, and that is my Twitter as well. Go hit me up, give it a follow. And if you look in the description below, you can find all of the other amazing hosts of the Red Leaf Retrocast, all their Twitter tags. Now, let's get going. It was a nice little July 4th holiday yesterday. I'm recording this the day after. A little bit hungover. I got a nice little iced coffee I made. Just finished up all the wrestling to talk about for this particular cast. And boy, oh boy, Tessa Blanchard is on an intergender wrestling tear. Over an Impact on June 21st. Yes, I watched an episode of Impact because Impact may not have what I'm enjoying in my wrestling these days in 2019, but there is someone that I always keep tabs on, and that's Tessa Blanchard over there. Well, the June 21st episode featured Tessa Blanchard versus Jake Christ of OVE, Ohio versus Everything, or Everyone. And this match came to be because Sami Callihan walked in the women's locker room and wouldn't leave. And if we remember, Tessa Blanchard basically turned face after Gail Kim passed the torch in their amazing match at Rebellion was the pay-per-view, I believe. So, Tessa Blanchard's not having anything to do with Sami Callihan. Get the hell out of here, she's saying, I will, and so she faces Jake Christ, member of OVE, and she basically forearms him to death. Shows a lot of fire, she has that, gets the win, and basically this helped set up the whole Sami Callihan versus Tessa Blanchard at Slammiversary, which is going to be taking place this weekend. So there you go, there's the story setup. I'm quite excited. And speaking of story setup, it's actually continued over in Wrestle Circus, and I don't believe I've ever even mentioned this promotion before. It is a Texas promotion out of Austin. I believe they do also travel to Dallas every now and again, but mostly the Austin area. The main event, great card by the way, has a lot of AEW guys there, a lot of the AAA talent. There's Peter Avalon, he's just the biggest of dicks there. Orange Cassidy faced off. Lots of shenanigans, as you would imagine. And Scarlett Bordeaux teamed with the Retrosexual AG, so it was good to see him getting out there, out of the whole CZW and Beyond picture and exploring. He tried his best to play a little bit of a heel. It's quite funny. And our girl, Alex Grazia, from a little bit of her Stardom tour. This is the first time I've seen her outside of Stardom. So the Wrestle Circus had a lot to do with the intergender wrestling in this time around. So the main event was champion Scorpio Sky, ringmaster champion, against Tessa Blanchard, who's the Lady of the Ring. She, I guess that's their women's title. I will say Wrestle Circus has the potential to do what Beyond is doing in the New England area, is to be potentially the promotion of the South. And God knows, just growing up in Texas, not a lot, I mean, there's plenty of indie wrestling, but nothing to the extent and reach that I think Wrestle Circus could have. So this main event was brought on. Scorpio Sky is a heel. He's got a couple minions with him. Spunky little manager. He apparently has a vape pen, and he blows smoke everywhere. You got one guy with a eye patch who videotapes everything. He kind of helps out. And then there's Tessa Blanchard, whom is way over at the crowd, and they put on a great intergender match. The Jake Christ one was quite short. To prove Tessa's dominance over someone in OVE. Meanwhile, this one was treated as their equals. Tessa Blanchard, yes, she's a female, but goddamn, she can fight. Scorpio Sky and her really blended well. Scorpio Sky worked her leg, and Tessa Blanchard sold it like a champ. A couple good thrown into rows of chair spots from both sides. I wasn't a huge fan of how much interference there was with Scorpio Sky's little minions there, his manager and the like. Like, I do get if it happens once or twice, but this was throughout the entire match. This was what brought it down for me. Good thing that both these guys, Blanchard and Scorpio Sky, are just so good in the ring that you just can't help but keep your eyes on it, and you just really want the interference to stop. Well, of course, it ends via interference, and Scorpio Sky gets the best. And post-match, as Tessa's getting a standing ovation, Sami Callihan, of all people, comes out, gives her the big pile driver, and leaves, really further setting up their match at Slammiversary. They have the potential, those two, Blanchard and Callihan, could have the potential for one of the best intergender matches out there. I've seen Blanchard face off against Brian Cage, really good stuff. Jordan Grace against Brian Cage. We just saw Chris Statlander and Joey Janela over and Beyond a couple weeks ago just tear the house down with some crazy shit. So I have real high expectations for what Callihan and Blanchard could do. So Blanchard's just killing it. I really want her to keep doing what she's doing for the next year, and then when her contract is up with Impact and going along all of this other indie scene that she's doing, she can get to a much bigger stage. Not WWE. I think she'd be a much better fit in AEW and what looks to be a much more fire focused women's division. So moving on to NXT June 26th. This was the event, the steel cage match, women's title. Io Shirai going up against Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler is still champion. I get the story that they're going here for, especially from TakeOver when Shirai got frustrated and kind of went nuts on Baszler with a kendo stick. She's kind of pulling out heel Lucha Underground Io Shirai in some way. Well, this steel cage match, I'm very torn on it. In one way, it was incredibly entertaining. I loved it on so many levels. I love the finish. Even though it rubbed me the wrong way, I still enjoyed it as a wrestling fan. But what really took it back was a steel cage match. The whole purpose of it is to keep interference from happening. And in this match, there was all of the interference. All of Shayna Baszler's little MMA minions, who still can't wrestle very well yet, came out, especially with this whole, ever since the Kairi Sane feud, and they've been introduced. I thought Shayna Baszler before that was a great heel. She didn't need the help. And now, ever since then, she needs the help. And it just keeps going and going and going. So who, if not Io Shirai, is going to get me to buy them beating her for the title? This really could have been it, and they could have had that same story be told, and Io turn even more heel than what she did at the takeover. Well, what ended up happening here was they threw each other against the cage a bunch of times. The MMA minions of Shafir and Duke come out. Shirai fights him off a little bit. Candice LeRae comes out. She does a big crossbody off the top of the cage, I believe. Takes them out. Baszler takes her out with a big knee. Shirai is up there. She does a moonsault from the top to take out Baszler. She crawls, and they have a little scuffle at the door. And one of my biggest pet peeves in cage matches is the whole I can just escape through the door, which is dumb. It should be padlocked, and if you are to escape the cage, it should be over the top. The other thing I think they should just get rid of in these cage matches is if it's pinfall or submission to win, then it shouldn't matter if you escape the cage or not. Now, if escaping the cage is the whole purpose to winning, then we got a different story. So, I don't know. That's always rubbed me the wrong way. Why would you run away from the fight kind of deal? You win by running away. Well, what ends up happening is Baszler and Shirai crawl to the door. Baszler has Shirai in the rear naked choke at the door, and to escape, Shirai grabs the door as she's on her stomach in the choke, and she rams the door into Baszler's head a couple times. Baszler releases the hold and falls out of the cage unconscious and wins that way. So you could look at it. I have seen people comment to me personally that this just further makes Shirai look like a dumb babyface character, which always gets over with fans. So this did contribute, I guess, fairly to her being, this was the last straw. I did like Shayna Baszler's facial expression when she kind of wakes up out of the unconscious state, and the ref hands her the title. She's like, oh my god, I won? How? So she escapes. Shirai and LeRae are in the ring. Shirai turns heel officially, completely, in frustration, beats up LeRae. She gets out of the ring, has second thoughts, and you think, oh, she's torn. Well, she grabs a chair, and she proceeds to do suplex on the chair, and the switch is flipped. The great facial expressions by Io Shirai, and it looks like we're getting Shirai v. LeRae down the line, but who's next for Baszler? I guess that's set up later with this whole Mia Yim and Bianca Belair, all that going on the side. To me, no one can reach the level of Baszler right now if it wasn't Io Shirai. LeRae hasn't had any sort of match success, even being on camera. Mia Yim is still kind of in that mid-card of how they've booked her. There has to be some big wins going on here. I am for the Io Shirai Candice LeRae thing, but one critique there is, why do those two need to face each other at all right now? Because then in the end, someone has to lose, right? I'm really afraid that they're going to overbook it, and Io Shirai is going to lose via DQ or something. So Baszler's still champion. Io Shirai pulling off her amazing athleticism with the moonsault off the top got a big pop out of me. So Tessa Blanchard, Io Shirai just killing it on the women's scene. This is why they're among the top wrestlers on the planet. And I don't think that's any denial there. They've both had quite a slow 2019. Shirai is stuck within NXT in that universe. It's not a lot of wrestling, not a lot of exposure from an in-ring standpoint. And Blanchard's been stuck in Impact. Yeah, she had the phenomenal feud with Gail Kim that culminated in one of my favorite matches of the year, especially from the women's match side. So hopefully the Sami Callihan thing goes on. Hopefully Io Shirai really pulls off this heel. I never want her to speak English. Because when she was going up the ramp on NXT and she's just yelling at the crowd in Japanese, putting her hand to her ear, like, yeah, come on, give it to me. It was so good. She never needs to speak English. Just a whole promo in Japanese yelling at people. It'd be great. Anyways, let's move on to the wrestler spotlight. Shall we, everybody? As I find my dumb drops, as usual. There it is.
The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
Hey, there we go. So, we're continuing our journey with NWA US Champions, the 8th different championship. The 10th title reign in general is Ricky Steamboat. His reign started defeating Ric Flair on October 21st, 1977, so we're still in the 70s. We're getting closer and closer to the 80s, which was my favorite time of the US title. Much more familiar with that. So Ricky Steamboat is regarded as one of the best workers and babyface wrestlers of all time. He would hold the US title for 72 days until losing it to Blackjack Mulligan, giving him his 3rd reign with the title. I wasn't a huge fan of Blackjack Mulligan, but I definitely understood the character. Ricky Steamboat is ungodly good. I mean, the crowd was 1,000% behind him all the time. His ring work, whether it was brawling or technical based, and he held some high-flying ability, such as his top rope crossbody. This is kind of why I love that move so much, is because whenever I saw tapes as a kid, or seeing Ricky Steamboat as the Dragon in WWF, or whatever it may be, he would pull this move off, and I was always enamored with it, because nobody else would do those things, right? So, his big single victories started when he signed in 1977 with Jim Crockett Promotions, where he was brought in by Wahoo McDaniel, a guy we've covered on a past spotlight. So, Wahoo McDaniel, the more I go through other wrestlers, his name always comes up. Comes up with Ric Flair, comes up now with Ricky Steamboat. Pretty incredible. Steamboat was immediately set up to feud with Ric Flair, of all people, and they were a natural fit and blended beyond well in the ring. They have many 5-star matches with each other. Steamboat's first feud, in fact, was against Ric Flair for the NWA TV title, in which Steamboat won. How you make a star 101, ladies and gentlemen. New guy comes in, beats a credible opponent in a good feud, culminating in their victory. So, keep that in mind. If you're a new guy, a new gimmick, a new character, someone who hasn't been exposed too much in the singles division of wherever you may be, whether it's AEW, WWE, how do you get a guy over? Well, Ric Flair is an incredible opponent. He's way over with the crowd in the heel way. And Steamboat, this, at the time, young up-and-comer, they recognized his talent right away, and they put him with him, and the matches were good. So they're like, shit, put him over. And that's what ended up happening. And this would go on for basically Ricky Steamboat's entire career. Yeah, he had good feuds with other people, but it always seemed to roll back around to Ric Flair himself. He would be a total star in Jim Crockett Promotions for 8 years until reaching a booking impasse with Dusty Rhodes, when Dusty Rhodes became the booker, as did a lot of wrestlers. That goes with the whole Dusty finish thing. Well, Dusty Rhodes would not book Ricky Steamboat as kind of the face of Jim Crockett Promotions. It'd be himself and Ric Flair, and Steamboat would always go back, and he'd go back to the mid-card fight. Not that the fighting for the NWA US title, or even the TV title, is a bad thing, but is definitely a step down from the heavyweight title. Whenever he had a heavyweight title reign, it was always short-lived, and he'd go right back to the mid-card. Kind of a big complaint I have with a lot of booking today is you don't keep your guys at the top. Your top guys shouldn't go backwards because they lost the title. I would rather see them continue to try to get into the heavyweight title picture rather than bumping down to the mid-card. Because then what ends up happening there is your potential star, such as Ricky Steamboat here, his job would seem to be put over other mid-card guys, and that would then bring him down further. Yes, it's good that you put over new stars, but those new stars would never reach the levels of a heavyweight champion kind of thing. So this was something I really felt fascinating by diving deeper into the career of Ricky Steamboat. From 1985 to 1994, his eventual retirement, Steamboat would jump back and forth between WWF and WCW, never really staying too long in either place, and was always booked okay, but in my opinion, never again a top star. Sure, he had a small heavyweight championship reign, again in NWA and WCW a few times, but again, short-lived, would go right back to the mid-card, having all the titles, from the US title, the Intercontinental title, etc., always seemed to be that fall guy. Not to say Steamboat didn't always put on fantastic feuds and matches with anyone. Of course he did that. He's fucking Ricky Steamboat. He was really good. For this, I end up wanting to rewatch one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, Jake the Snake Roberts, and I watched their WWF feud. This is the infamous one where Jake the Snake DDT'd Steamboat on the outside, unprotected mat, and knocked him unconscious. So I rewatched that whole thing. Very good. Just two guys that were in the mid-card that Jake never won a singles title ever. And then Steamboat, if he did, it was with other... His most prevalent matches were definitely against the other heavyweight titles, namely the WrestleMania 3 match against Macho Man Randy Savage for the Intercontinental title. And it's no secret why that match lives with so much high regard. So, someone I'm not familiar with was actually a wrestler called Dick Slater. I've heard the name. I've heard other wrestling fans, older ones, talk about Dick Slater. And this was an interesting perspective with whether it be the TV title or the NWA US title. Was Dick Slater was a mid-card limited guy, right? He would resort to a lot of punches, kicks, and headbutts, of all things. So seeing Ricky Steamboat in this brawling environment really made me think to something we just saw recently with Okada versus Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has changed his character again, and he's this brawler guy in New Japan. He brawls, he punches, kicks, lots of elbows, and this is what I saw from Ricky Steamboat. Usually, you watch a Ric Flair match, and they go back and forth. They switch between a lot of styles, and it's still more technical, mat-based. But what Steamboat would do is, in the Dick Slater feuds, he would fight back with his signature chops, and then throughout the rest of these matches, he would do lots of jumping knees, elbows to the back of the head from the middle rope. When the guy's on the ground, he'd he'd run the ropes and end with a big jumping punch to the face. And crowd always goes nuts for it. And I was very enamored because of the way not only Dick Slater sold everything, guys were much better sellers of punches back in the 70s and 80s. I am seeing that more and more. Really makes me have more perspective to how wrestlers today, you watch a WWE match and they throw punches and the guys don't sell very well, and the punches aren't thrown very well either. So that's why when you watch everything else, they don't punch at all anymore. While in New Japan, it's hard elbow strikes and forearm shots, that kind of thing. So more punches really brought a bigger sense of real feeling to it all. And for someone of Ricky Steamboat's caliber, who I'm always seen as this high flyer, technical guy, this Dick Slater feud was quite enlightening to the how versatile Ricky Steamboat was as a wrestler and how just smooth he was with all this. He could work with literally anybody. Pretty incredible stuff. So, from the lesson I learned is don't book your Ricky Steamboats into the mid-card. They're too good for that. That's how you build a star. And I think the reason why Steamboat was he would jump is because he was frustrated putting guys over all the time, and he was never put over himself to the extent he probably should. He could have been the other Sting, right? And in fact, being a WCW fan as I am, or was, Ricky Steamboat, Sting, Ric Flair, Vader, like those are your 4 guys, right? That's who I associate with WCW, especially in the early 90s. And there's a reason why I loved them so much. You had your 2 baby faces and your 2 big heels, right? Very different guys. So anyways, go out of your way and watch some Ricky Steamboat. Obviously, go watch the Ric Flair matches, but I would recommend the Dick Slater one if you want to see Ricky Steamboat be in a style that you probably aren't too familiar with. So, let's move on to weekly wrestling. Shall we, everybody? Trying to stay a little bit more calm today. I'm a little bit hungover, too, so... Okay, Major League Wrestling, episodes 62 and 63. Episode 62, let's start. Well, we got Zelina De La Renta hosting another show. I guess MLW themselves saw the fantastic feedback from the Cinco de Mayo show where she was the producer. Well, Zelina's back to welcome us to another show of hers, because she's the producer tonight as well. She's on a nice looking velvet couch with a bottle of champagne, an extremely sexy dress, like ungodly, and she's really showing it off to us all. She goes on and makes fun of Low Key. Then Jimmy Havoc in the back, the camera cuts, meets Mansoor and Sami Callihan at the front of the building, saying that they are not welcomed in the building because Zelina is not letting them in until the main event, which they are in with a loser leaves MLW forever match, because Zelina hates them both and wants to see them beat the crap out of each other, and the loser leaves. She couldn't be happier. How MLW allows her to have this kind of power, I don't know, but I'm all for it. Iced coffee. Something I don't do too much. Well, if we remember Cinco de Mayo, it was the showcase of Promociones Dorado. Well, in this case, we're getting a lot of lucha highlights this time. And she starts us off with, in my opinion, MLW's match of the year so far, and that's Rey Horus versus Flamita. You might be familiar with Rey Horus from Lucha Underground as Dragon Azteca, and Flamita from AAA and Bandito's tag team partner. So, yes, it's a very lucha-style match of trading high spots. You can expect that. There's a spear into a Spanish fly, into a satellite DDT, into another Spanish fly, into another satellite DDT, and they only get 2 counts. Naturally, Jim Cornette is off his ass in amazement of all the athleticism. Eventually, Flamita is finally able to win after a 450 splash of fantastic 15-minute wrestling. I love the 15-minute mark in opening matches. Really get you going. If this match would have been 20 minutes, then we probably wouldn't have gotten to the level of the show that we would have gotten. So honestly, outside of some of the death matches, I think this is the better MLW TV match of 2019. I highly recommend this Rey Horus versus Flamita. 4 stars. Go out and get it. So now we're on to our little promo time, as MLW does. We got Tom Lawler saying he's bringing in the Von Erich brothers to help him take on Contra Unit. Should be good. Then we get a short-lived match of Ricky Martinez with Zelina De La Renta versus Low Key. The reason Low Key and Zelina broke up their little business relation is because Low Key's contract came to a close, and he didn't want to resign because he felt Zelina wasn't taking him as a big priority. That was kind of hinted a little bit. So then what ended up happening later on an MLW show is Ricky and Zelina bailed on Low Key when Contra attacked, and Contra beat the shit out of Low Key. So Zelina's not a happy person over this little betrayal, and she wants to do everything she can to get back at Low Key. Kind of your little vendetta. Interesting little note is Jim Cornette on commentary as Low-Ki's coming out, and even during the match a little bit. He says, MLW is the land of misfit toys, because they have Low-Ki, Teddy Hart, and soon Austin Aries. So people that are known to be very much trouble in the locker room and kind of, let's call it blacklisted from a lot of promotions out there. MLW is this hodgepodge of such a thing. So, yes, very quick match. Low-Ki runs at Ricky, hits him with a kind of big running forearm, and Martinez does a very good job of selling this. It looks like his eyes are glazed over. Looks like he's pretty much knocked out. And the referee ends up calling the match. So it looks like we're getting back this Hitman Low-Ki character with these quick knockouts that can come out of nowhere. I do like this to an extent. And yes, Low-Ki takes himself way too seriously. Way too much. I hope they only do this about 2 or 3 times. That will lead into something more down the road, like maybe a backstage knockout or something with said forearm. I just hope they don't overbook it. So, I guess we'll prepare mentally for probably another match in which Low-Ki knocks someone out, and then hopefully we'll get some story from there. We go backstage. Mansoor and Sami Callihan do the whole Mega Powers handshake after spitting loogies in their hands. They are preparing for their little match. Loser leaves the company. I do like the line Sami says upon the whole loogie handshake. He goes, "Why you always gotta make it gross, man?" And Sami Callihan's big rat. "Why you always gotta make it gross?" Yeah, I can't do a Sami Callihan. I'm not a 30-year-old smoker. Selena is backstage now yelling at Ricky about losing his match. Ricky looks absolutely devastated. He's embarrassed. Selena's saying fuck quite a lot. Only helps how pissed off she is on this night, considering the success of her team on Cinco de Mayo not doing so well on this night. She should be happy with how Rey Horus and Flamita put on a fantastic match. Maybe we'll get Flamita, because he won that match, into Promociones Dorado or some sort of story from there. MJFR and Aria Blake are back to being in a relationship on screen, and her being gone isn't addressed at all. As they talk like the bunch of assholes they are, Contra Unit Cigna shows up. So if we know anything from our history, whenever you see that unit, Contra's coming for you. So I think we're hinting at Contra Unit literally going to kill MJF. And that's how they're going to write him off MLW TV. They still talk shit about the Hart Foundation. Hammerstone is very cocky. He thinks he's above the whole Dynasty group himself. So you can sense that the Dynasty is not going to be around much longer with a lot of this that's going on. I kind of like this whole subtlety playing into a lot of this, where the egos will get the better of each other, and now you're throwing the whole Contra hint in there. Quite like it. Time for the main event. So we're moving along quick on this episode. Mance Warner versus Sami Callihan. Side note, this is interesting. So, as Callihan was coming to the ring, he takes a water bottle and spits water all over Jim Cornette and gives him the finger. So, Sami says spitting on Cornette is because of Sonny Kiss, because on the Jim Cornette podcast, Cornette, well, he is pretty much an old-timey racist and doesn't like women's wrestling and transvestites. So, Sami thinks Cornette is a legit piece of trash human being. I can't really blame him. It appears that MLW stands with Cornette over their wrestlers. So as you can see, Sami has been retweeting comments on Twitter over the incident. You can just go check that out. Sami and Austin Aries also don't like each other. That's from the Impact days. And since Aries is on his way into MLW, this is a real shame because Callihan has been a long-standing guy for MLW. He's sort of the pseudo voice of independent wrestling for a long time now. I put him in there with the likes of David Starr. Unfortunately, it seems, instead of working this out or figuring out some way to keep Callihan, they would rather just stick with the misfit names of the industry. Real shame here. Once the spit incident happens, Cornette literally won't shut the fuck up in this match. he just won't hold back his true emotions on the matter. I hated it quite a lot. Took so much away from the match, and that's a real shame because the match was quite awesome. Sammy and Mansoor fight all over the arena, by the merch booth, brainbuster on the bleachers that apparently actually caused some major damage that Sammy had to pay. Probably an exit fine, if you ask me. The fans are totally loving all of this, all while the voice of MLW here is shitting constantly over the guys in the ring. We get a series of deathmatch spots ranging from pile drivers through a door, trash can used as a battering ram, both guys face-to-face, sitting on chairs. I love these spots, as always. Proceed to spit and slap the shit out of each other. Pretty awesome. There's a tombstone chair spot. There's "This is awesome" chants from the crowd. Sammy staples Mansoor's tongue to a door. Yeah, you heard that right. But Mansoor is a crazed southern motherfucker boy, so he rips his tongue out of the door. And this leads to the end of the match of Mansoor hits his running knee, then another running knee through a door into Sammy for the win. Best death match of the year, as far as I'm concerned. I love the hell out of this. I freaking love this episode. A big win, only Cornette's commentary, and the main event was quite irritating. So episode 62 gets a big thumbs up from me. Go out of your way to watch this one. Lots of good storytelling. The non-kayfabe stuff is, I don't like it, but hey, MLW somehow saved all of this and made a fantastic 1 hour of wrestling entertainment. Well, on to episode 63. The show starts with Jimmy Havoc and Zelina De La Renta having a funeral of sorts for Sami Callihan. Zelina is still good. MLW, I don't know if you want to bury Callihan literally, but it sure seems like it. Our opening match was supposed to be Teddy Hart versus Richard Holiday of the Dynasty, but goes to a brawl when Hart sees MJF on stage, like by commentary. They brawl around, Dynasty gets the better of him, and in fact steals his middleweight title. So, very fun angle. I like it. Then MLW does this thing that they like doing where they show an angle 1,000 times in replays. I remember the late 80s, early 90s TV shows, whether it was like WWF Superstars or anything I've watched from the Jim Crockett Promotions via YouTube. They show these angles 1,000 times. So I get, it's a way to stretch out your limited TV time. I use limited as in you have an hour and you gotta fill the hour out kind of deal. So anyways, Mance Warner cuts a promo about how he's drinking and thinking, and he's over by like a bayou. Makes a joke about, beautiful river, but don't eat the fish, they got 4 eyes or something of the other. It's Mance Warner. He's a good promo. It's a very southern promo. I like it. Mansoor says he is pissed because Zelina used Mansoor as a pawn. He ain't gonna have that. Mansoor is a simple man. Zelina and her boys are all about fancy things. And then he says he is a manhunter for Zelina and her group. So I quite like this. This is kind of what I hoped WCW did with the whole NWA angle with Sting. Is they would have someone take out the NWO one by one. They never did that. So I'm hoping Mance Warner here kind of goes through Promociones Dorado in some way, kind of like this. And with Low Key kind of being in the background saying, with his leaving Promociones Dorado, maybe he'll come in. Jimmy Havoc is part of her group now, which I still don't understand. That's never really been addressed. I don't get it. I wish they would do that. Anyways, Jordan Oliver, the 2000s white rapper guy gimmick, versus Isaiah Velasquez. Quick, fast-paced affair between the two young guns. Oliver gets the win and shows off his early 2000s white rapper gimmick. Cool enough, I guess. I'm not a fan of this Jordan Oliver character, but we'll see where he goes. I think he's got a lot of improvement to make. Low Key versus Tom Coffey, a big dude, basically. I wonder if he's related to the Coffey brothers in Scotland. I doubt it. He gets knocked out in one hit, crowd not happy. This is exactly what I was kind of thinking was going to happen along these lines. But then Low Key immediately gets on the mic and he cuts the "I'm coming for you" promo. which is actually pretty cool for a change. He wants Contra Unit, so usually these low-key promos are very, very slow, and he's got his low voice, and he's very serious all the time, so this promo was very good. It wasn't like that at all. So, okay, no more one-hit knockouts now. We've now seen 2 matches, especially against this big dude. I think it was like 280 or something, or 300. Knocks him out. Let's get this angle going now. Like I said, I could deal with he goes for Contra Unit, knocks out like Samael or Simon Grimm in one hit, and then he, face to face with Fatu or somebody, We get a quick few recap videos more with MLW, and then they announced Dr. Wagner Jr. is coming to MLW. Okay, then. He's got his bad medicine music going on, so. Contra Unit versus Tom Lawler and the Von Erichs in a Tornado Tag Team match. No DQ, mind you, because it's Contra Unit. Kind of expected, and I liked it. As expected, it's a pure chaos brawl type match. Lawler somehow gets tied up into the ring post, and he's not tied up for more than a minute before a referee comes down and cuts him free. I kind of like the reality of that, rather than the Von Erichs kind of in this 2-on-3 situation. Refs notice right away that Lawler can't defend himself, so they go and put a stop to that quite quick. Tom Lawler walks to the back and then gets a board, and he breaks the board over Fatu's head when he comes in. Fatu no-sells it, kind of like Meng in the old days would no-sell the chair shots. So after the no-sell, Lawler just kicks him in the nuts, which I thought was absolutely phenomenal. I loved it. It's great. He goes, well, if this isn't going to work, bang, nuts. Von Erichs had their spots too, got them over. There was an interesting spot where the older Von Erich brother, he dives on Russ Von Erich, because Fatu was going to do his big moonsault on him. Well, they do some Von Erich spots, with the Iron Claw. They do end up getting the win via the Iron Claw Slam. And as the Von Erichs rock music hits and continues to play, the chaos does not stop. They just keep brawling, which is awesome, because this is all going on. You can hear the crowd just loving it, and the music's still playing with their doon 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 doon. It's pretty good. So I got a real good kick out of that. The Contra Unit's just so mad. This is their first time they've been quote-unquote vulnerable. They got beat up. Fatu ends up just picking up a ref that was kind of trying to be in the middle, and he just puts him through a table out of frustration. Awesome. Everyone came out great in this match. A very drawn-out episode of MLW, but everything served its purpose, especially the main event. 2 for 2 on episode 34 here of the Wrestlecast of MLW. Really enjoyed it. They're coming right back into good graces. There was a little downturn in the March-April months, and then in between the end of May and early June, but now we're back heading into July, getting ready for, I believe it's not Clash of Champions, it's like Kings of Colosseum, I think. But you know what they're going for. So good on you, MLW. Quite liking it. And speaking of good weekly wrestling, let's move on to Beyond Wrestling.
Beyond Wrestling! Beyond Wrestling! Beyond Wrestling!
Yes, Beyond Wrestling, Uncharted Territory, episodes 12 and 13. Whew. 13 weeks into this now. Wow. Alright. Episode 12. We got our usual Sydney Bacabella and something Crockett or another is the other guy's name. Paul Crockett, I think. Match 1 is Chris Dickinson defeating Shane Mercer. Dickinson got the win with the Memphis-style pile driver, as he does. Focused more on the wrestling this time. Very good. Very good match. Keeps the Dickinson train going. He calls out wrestler Matt Justice and says he's leaving a foot up his ass. So there you go. Dickinson likes to swear a lot. Followed by a tag team match. This is a Chikara tag match, and this is we're gonna see some of this going forward. We got Cornelius Crummels and Sonny Darfarge facing off against Green Ant and Razorhawk 2000. So Cornelius Crummels and Sonny Darfarge are the grossest tag team ever, I guess is the way to put it. They're the dirtiest players in the game. Good introduction of these Chikara teams. Crummels and Darfarge are just nasty little guys. There was this really confusing run-in at the end, but the announcers, as they are, they were great in setting the stage. So Bacabella, Sidney Bacabella, he's very much into the whole Chikara little universe, and he's doing great on commentary, especially with all of his strange retro references that he likes doing. My favorite line Sidney gave was, Razorhawk 2000 is the most annoying wrestler of all time, and he's from the future, the year 2000. And Crockett just is so confused with it all, and you can tell he's trying to hold back his laughter from it. There was another line where someone has a size 23 shoe, and he goes, size 23 shoe? Wow, his wife must be really happy. So, Sydney's awesome. Love him. Singles match. Yeah, so there was a big run-in DQ finish. Singles match is next. Solo Darling defeats heel guy JXT in 8 minutes 31 seconds by submission. Solo Darling not only had the whole crowd behind her the entire time, good on JXT for playing the straight heel character. We saw a lot of that in the Discovery Gauntlet with Thomas Santel's opponents, so really added to her comeback, Solo Darling's. With the exception of kind of the sloppy last spot there going into the sharp stinger that is Solo Darling's submission. It's kind of a Texas Cloverleaf. It was a solid match. Solo continues to improve week in and week out. No complaints there. Solo is really, really improving. We get a tag team match, Bear Country defeating Team Tremendous of Bill Carr and Dan Barry. Decent enough. Match goes exactly 10 minutes. After Bear Country's loss last week to Eddie Kingston and David Starr, this was a good bounce back match. Because commentary really put over who Team Tremendous is and all their victories over big-time tag teams that they've beaten, such as the Young Bucks and the like. So this added to this whole Bear Country as the ace tag team of Beyond. So good stuff there. Team Tremendous looking good. Dan Barry is the best working lazy wrestler. I guess that's his little shtick. I've seen him in OTT a couple times. The show then cut to a pre-tape with Cam Zagani in the day with Thomas Santel's next opponent for the Discovery Gauntlet. Ooh, interesting. Get a singles match of Josh Briggs versus Richard Holiday. Solid, quick 5-minute match. Just all to tell us a spot where Holiday kicks Briggs in the hip and Briggs yells, "That didn't hurt!" Chokebomb pin, done. Cool. Briggs is back in his winning ways. He's healthy again, is the story. We get a 6-man tag team match. The Platinum Honeys of Angel Sinclair and Ava Everett with retrosexual Anthony Green defeating the Top Dogs, Davey Ann and Skylar, and Ken Doane. So last week, Ken Doane did the heinous knockout punch to Angel Sinclair. Awful, heinous, how dare he. Was highlighted as the Platinum Honeys and AG were going to the ring. I really liked the Tandem Honeys pin finish, and Everett getting the pin specifically on Ken Doane was sweet revenge. Very good stuff. Ken Doane has now lost. We can move on from that little story. He's an asshole. The woman he hit last week got her revenge in the best way possible in the ring. So a simple couple weeks story there, coming to a conclusion. I quite liked it. Discovery Gauntlet match. Thomas Santel, the Ovaltine Dream, are everyone's nerd, your nerd and my nerd, going for, I believe this is his 8th Discovery Gauntlet match, and then his victory over, his DQ victory over, what's his face, Chuck O'Neil. So we could be going a Goldberg streak here, 9-0. Let's see what happened. This was a solid affair between the two. Goes back and forth. You can tell Christian Casanova is a good wrestler. Santel locks in the sugar-free hold at the end, and the camera doesn't show what's happening. And it's a good little camera maneuver, because you see Casanova getting pulled to the ropes. And who is it? It's Cam Zagami. Oh, that motherfucker. So Santel argues with Zagami. Casanova sneaks from behind and rolls Santel up for the win. Santel's no longer in the Discovery Gauntlet. No! Not the Ovaltine Dream! Cam Zagami, you fucker! Oh, the crowd is pissed. Christian Casanova wins in 10 minutes, 4 seconds. So, post-match, Zagami removes the interviewer from the ring. Gets Casanova in the ring. He even calls the interviewer Toots. That'll really make people angry. Santel is fucking furious. He's being restrained and pushed to the back. You see him all ripped up because his muscles are just at an all-time high. He's yelling "fuck you" to Zagami. It's awesome. Love the fire. But it finally happened. And guys, I'm shocked. I'm a little angry, but I'm going to have to accept it. Thomas Santel is no longer in the Discovery Gauntlet. This is devastating. How will I ever recover? Okay. Show must go on. So Casanova seems to be pretty solid. We'll see if he can carry the gauntlet. But he'll never carry the torch that Santel had. Pour one out for the Ovaltine Dream, everybody. Oh, that should have been the main event. It really should have. But anyways, tag team matches are our main event. It is the Gentlemen's Club, the team of Chuck Taylor and Orange Cassidy. So this will get everyone happy again. They defeat the team of Nouveau Aesthetic. That's Blank and Still Life with Apricots and Spears. Yes, that is a wrestler name, and you know it's Chikara. Still Life with Apricots and Pears. That is his wrestling name. And then Blank. Okay. This is exactly what you would expect from a Chikara main event. And I'm here to tell you guys, it was very entertaining. So let's just cut to the near end. Cassidy calls for a 3D. Yes, the Dudley Boys move. So when Taylor gets the guy up, Cassidy didn't hit his part of the finisher. This is then repeated for a heart attack maneuver, and it goes at 0.25 speed. Because Cassidy just, he's too cool for school, man. He just goes off the ropes and just barely hits the guy. Blank is very angry at this point. Counters a Canadian Destroyer with an attempt on the top rope. Taylor sets up for a Doomsday Device. And of course it was just comically missed. Taylor has the Doomsday Device set up, and Cassidy's on the top rope, and he keeps telling him to go further and further away, and then he just goes off the top and just totally misses. It's great. Post-match, Chuck O'Neil. Oh yeah, there was an orange mist to Canadian Destroyer for the Gentlemen's Club to get the win. Post-match, Chuck O'Neil enters the ring and chokes out Orange Cassidy. And this triggers Wheeler Yuta, returning from his tour in WXW in Germany, hits the ring to take out O'Neil, and O'Neil just laughs at Yuta as both men kind of go to the back. So back into the ring, Cassidy is trying to celebrate, but he just got choked out a little bit. Then he eats a cutter from a guy named Logan Easton LaRue. Naturally, this prompts a "Who are you?" chant from the crowd. Even I am not totally familiar with this guy. LaRue then cuts a promo on Cassidy and throws his hat in for the IWTV title. So I guess that's going to be set up for American Rana, but they're going to Beyond is going to have to need to explain to us who this Logan LaRue is. L-E-L, not L-O-L. So good episode of Uncharted Territory. On to episode 13. Wasn't as good, but lots of story being told nonetheless. We get a Solo Darling defeating Shotzi Blackheart opening match, so another win for Solo in an even better match than a previous week, so Solo's put in the work. Anthony Green calls out the Patriot for next week because that is July 4th. So there you go. We get a singles match of Chuck O'Neil defeating John Silver, and this was good. This did a few good things for me. It was a nice hitting fight, nice strong hitting fight. This only helps Silver get further over going up against one of the most hated men in Beyond Wrestling. Wheeler Yuta just happened to be on commentary, so nice little touch there. Goes back from the previous week. O'Neil taps out Silver and keeps the hold on a little bit longer due to the ref missing the initial tap out. Nice little touch. This causes Yuta to storm down to the ring, and O'Neil does get him in an armbar, and no one to this point has ever escaped the O'Neil armbar. Well, Yuta gets out of it, and this forces O'Neil to kind of bail, and kind of gets us to realize, oh shit, maybe Yuta can get the better of me. So I quite like that. So Silver's looking strong, O'Neil's looking strong, Yuta looks like he's ready for a fight. I quite like it. So episode 13 is off to a very good start. Very simple storytelling. So we're on to our Discovery Gauntlet. This is Christian Casanova with... he defeats Layla Hirsch. She's a wrestler from Moscow. And yes, the first woman in the Discovery Gauntlet, if you're keeping track. Cam is now being called Cameron Zagani, and he comes to the ring in a real douchebag-looking white suit. Commentary... Sydney says he looks like Colonel Sanders going into a gay bar, which is quite funny. But it was a quick 4-minute match. Cameron then gets on the mic to cut a promo, but the boos in the place were so loud you couldn't hear him. Love it. That is how a heel gets real heat. Okay. Chris Dickinson versus Matt Justice, and holy shit, what a match. This was insane. Seriously, guys, this Dickinson build for Sekimoto has been utterly fantastic. There were several times I thought both men were just gonna do something horrid to each other. Outstanding hardcore match. The big spot was the border toss or outsider edge or Pazuzu bomb, however you want to call it this week, off the stage. So there's a stage at the White Eagle. That's where they are now. All the construction around the Electric Haze has now caused them to move venues, which sucks because I'm a big fan of the Electric Haze. The White Eagle's a little bit more plain, but it does allow for a bigger crowd to be there. So, but yeah, Pazuzu bomb off the stage through a door that was set up. There was multiple thrown chair shots to the head. Dickinson himself gets DVD'd through a table. Just excellent. Dickinson puts in yet another stellar performance. Stellar match. His winning streak continues. He is now the longest Beyond active winning streak now that Santel had lost last week. So, we get a 6-man tag match. So this is the Chikara match. Last week we got a tag match. Then there was the interference from 2 other guys. The run-in. So now we have Green Ant, Razorhawk 2000, and Thief Ant going up against Cajun Crawdad, Cornelius Crummels, and Sonny Defarge. And there is yet another run-in by DQ. So this was a nonsense trios Chikara match, if I have ever seen one. Story continues here with another Sea Creature run-in. And yes, I do say Sea Creature run-in. I know it's Chikara. Don't worry about it. The gimmicks are absolute madness. And this causes Mike Quackenbush himself. He's the the booker and head guy of Chikara over at Wrestle Factory in Philly. He comes on the screen to tell us that he will be there next week to put a stop to this madness. So there you go. Mike Quackenbush is coming. A singles match of Nick Gage versus Richard Holiday. This goes to a no contest. It never even starts because a brawl breaks out early. Gage gets pushed into Ken Doane, whom happened to be wandering ringside prior to the match starting. So Holiday and Doane are just kicking the shit out of Nick Gage, and who shall run in and save the day? Well, it's Mr. Nerd himself. It's Thomas Santel. The crowd explodes. This guy's in a white-collared shirt. He's got pens in his pockets. He's got his big glasses on. He looks like Marty McFly. He looks like a ripped version of Marty McFly. Full on. And then Nick Gage gets real mad at him for helping. So, a few weeks ago, the Discovery Gauntlet came in right after a Nick Gage match, and Santel and Gage kind of locked eyes, and Gage just like, who the fuck is this nerd? All right? So it kind of plays off that subtle meeting. So more storytelling in Beyond than it lets on. So pay attention to these little details. They're there. Then our main event is Josh Briggs versus Chris Statlander. Both are looking to get their wins and get on the winning ways. Briggs has 2 wins in a row. Statlander is basically on a losing streak ever since she lost the IWTV title because of Kimberly's shenanigans. So what happens here? Well, Briggs gets the win after a very sloppy main event. This wasn't very good. They tried to tell the story that Briggs didn't want to hurt Statlander, and Statlander wanted a fight. But it was just too sloppy, a lot of missed spots. You can tell they're not totally in sync with each other, especially with the size difference of how big Briggs is comparatively. They did meet once before in a treasure hunt back in, I believe it was February. That was the month. Could have been March. That's how Statlander got her cash-in medallion. Well, Briggs got DQ'd in the match, so they never really got to fight before. So that's what ended up happening there. So 13 out of 13 weeks, Uncharted territory is nailing it. Quite enjoyed it. I look forward to more and more every week. It is, use the promo code Uncharted. It'll keep Beyond. Keep doing this. I love all the stars that are being made there. Statlander, Solo Darling are your women. Briggs, Santel's become a huge star. No one saw that coming. So yeah, go over to Independent Wrestling TV, use the promo code Uncharted, and you'll get 20 days free. There you go. All right. Time to move on. Ooh, do I play TCS or do I play Mayu? I guess I'll play Mayu. Yes, Mayu Iwatani's music. We're talking Stardom. And I've been doing I've been doing this Stardom talk after the weekly wrestling this placement on purpose, because it seems that Stardom doesn't do monthly shows. They do more shows than any other women's promotion out there, and for good reason. They nail it. So we got pretty much kind of a month to talk about here. I'm fully caught up with Stardom now. I'm not behind. This is a very good feeling. It's been a couple months just covering Stardom on this cast, where I always seem to be a show or two behind. But here we go. Starting June 9th in Sapporo, Hazuki defeats Saki to retain the high-speed belt in 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Post-match, Hazuki calls out Azumi herself as her next challenger, going to break the record for the most defenses of the high-speed belt. The high-speed belt serves a great purpose, just a quick match. Hazuki, during this reign, has now gotten over what she calls the Hazuki Strawl. It's the Lucha Okada roll? The Lucha Okada roll, where you spin over the arm, you flip the body, and you roll them up. She's really gotten that move over as kind of, I will pin you every time once I hit this in. So, quite like it. She even makes the joke that 2 minutes wasted on Saki is a waste of time kind of deal. I quite like it. JPQ, she deserved every bit of that pin eating. So, and this is a good time now to bring up that I am going to Chikara's King of Trios weekend, at least night 2. And from this date, so mark it down, this date till October 1st, JPQ over at the No Particular Angle podcast and I have a 10 question bet. And whomever has the most correct bets, because we do have some questions there of like who's going to be the red belt champion heading into the 5-star Grand Prix, that kind of stuff. And the loser will have to buy the rounds at the King of Trios night 2. So there you go. It's on, baby. Our main event in Sapporo is champion B. Priestley, red belt world champion, facing off against Konami. B. Priestley does get the win in a very slow technical match. And for sure, B. Priestley needs more practice with these kind of things. Konami looks like she jammed her knee pretty bad on her baseball slide kick early, and I believe this hindered the match's movement significantly. I could definitely tell Konami was kind of favoring it. She's trying to work through it. She wasn't running as hard. But regardless, B ends up winning via the Ocean Cyclone Suplex, and then calls out Momo and Utami as her next opponents. Very interesting. Momo obliges, but only when the time is right. Well, that could be right around the corner. I thought Hana Kimura was going to be a singles champion before Momo gets the red belt. I do expect Momo to get the red belt by the end of this year. I think it's inevitable. Well, anyways, it was an okay technical affair. Not one of my favorite world title matches of the year, that's for sure. Well, June 16th took place in Korakuen, and this is the big night. I actually watched this on a plane going to Vegas for the big bowling tournament out there, the Nationals, and I actually downloaded a pirate stream from Samurai TV. So this actually had full-on commentary the whole time, and it had video packages, bringing in a few of the matches. So that was interesting. Yes, I am subscribed to Stardom World, #WatchStardom. But you can't watch it in the middle of the air, Anyways, we start out with a 16. I'm gonna skip over the young lioness match as I always do, but this is definitely a card worth watching. Okay, 6-man tag team match: Tokyo Cyber Squad, the team of Bobby Tyler, Death Yamasan, and Ruaka. They were facing against Saki Kashima, Saya Ida, and Zoe Lucas. So Zoe Lucas is back from England. So this match only goes 6 minutes and 3 seconds. And what ends up happening is Zoe Lucas turns heel on Stars and joins TCS. So her heel persona in England has now made it to Stardom, and she's with TCS now. So yes, sir. I'm not a big Zoe Lucas fan. She's very lanky in the ring, is how I can describe it. She needs a lot of work. But anyways, I did like the heel turn. Saki did a fantastic job of selling the betrayal. How could you do this? Anyways, our next match is a tag team match. It's Queen's Quest of Azumi and B. Priestley, defeating Mayu Iwatani and Starlight Kid. The reason I bring this match up, I would usually skip over it, but the match went 8 minutes and 42 seconds, and Mayu Iwatani is healthy, everybody, and god damn it, it's good to see her back. Good to see her pep in her step. I love it. She's amazing. I really hope that we get to see Mayu versus B. Priestley sooner rather than later. I want to see that match badly. And for the red belt. We have our Artist of Stardom title match. This is the Trios title, everybody. It's Tokyo Cyber Squad, Hana Kimura, Jungle Kyona, and Kinami, facing off against Oedo Tai's team of Andres Miyagi, Kagetsu, and Natsu Sumire. This one goes just under 18 minutes, and it was fantastic. These two teams, we're gonna go against each other. Hana's been calling out Oedo Tai for weeks now, and I get the camo wasn't on the line, so I guess that we'll have that another day. But TCS does get the win. Very fun match. Got a great amount of time, and it just set the pace for the rest of the night from here on out. We had our Goddess of Stardom title match. This is our tag titles. Momo and Utami defeat the Oedo Tai team of Hazuki and Natsuko Tora. And I didn't think for 1 second that Queen's Quest were going to lose the titles here. But the match did go 17 minutes, 14 seconds, so a little shorter than the trios match. This is basically the Hazuki showcase of her facing off against Momo a lot of the times, and then the brief exchange with Utami was also good. Utami's trying to come back from injury still. She still looked like she was working out a few things with her. Azumi also is coming back from an injury as well. Successful defense number 5 for the Queen's Quest duo. Now we're on to our main event, the Wonder of Stardom title match. The white belt. Cinderella winner and new champion Arisa Hoshiki facing off against fellow Stars member and a history of not getting along too much, Tam Nakano. Is it Tam time? We're about to find out. The match goes 21 minutes and 41 seconds, and I'm on record of this podcast over and over again saying, if you can get a match to that magic 20-minute number, and it goes over that, and we're still into it, it's just a magic time with a match. It becomes brilliant. It is the difference between a good match and a great match, right? Well, this was an utterly brilliant match. Crowd was 100% behind Tam Time Team Nakano, and this could be one of Tom's best matches in her career. It's definitely one of the best matches I've ever seen, outside of some of her crazy death matches that she did. Also, after 2 months, Arisa finally put in a good performance. This was her best performance since the Cinderella tournament. Tam brought out the best in her, and she finally showed some fucking fire, which has certainly been missing. Kicks from both were landing. Arisa, there's a great moment where they're kicking each other back and forth, then they're forearming each other, and Arisa just lights it up and uses her height and gets the better. This is one of the best women's matches of the year. I highly recommend this one. I was very worried heading into this one and very happy to be proven wrong. If we see more of this Arisa and much less of the past couple months, then the white belt is in good hands. I wanted Tam to win this so bad and continue the whole infighting between these two and just getting along for the sake of the team. So it seems like these two are on the same page now, and this was the culmination of them not getting along and Tom finally accepting Arisa. And then Stardom kind of goes a little slow from there. We got June 22nd in Osaka. There was a tag title match, Goddess of Stardom title, where Queen's Quest, Momo, and Utami defeated Tokyo Cyber Squad team of Hana Kimura and Bobby Tyler. Match went 16 minutes, 7 seconds. Good stuff. Bobby Tyler's looking more and more improved in the ring, especially each time she comes on a Stardom tour. She teams very well with Hana Kimura. Successful defense number 6 for the duo, and it looks like Konami and Jungle are next in line, which I'm very excited for. Ever since the formation of Tokyo Cyber Squad, I have been very adamant in predicting that Konami and Jungle are going to win those tag titles and take them, have them for quite some time. June 23rd in Shimane, this is Saki's homecoming show, and her title she wants is the Trios title, the Artist of Stardom title. Well, in her homecoming, in pure devastation of me, Tokyo Cyber Squad, Hana, Jungle, Konami lose to the now healthy Mayu, the Saki, Kashima, and Tam Nakano duo. Saki had some very good, awesome, sick gear on. I'm always a gear fan. For the first 7 minutes of this match, it was just Tokyo Cyber Squad beating up Saki Kashima. It was quite funny. It got huge heat from the crowd, and it all started off with Hana grabbing some nice flowers from the crowd and wanting to give them to Saki, and everyone's like, yeah, okay. And then she proceeds to hit her over the head with it, and then all three members beat her up, and it just kind of went from there. There was a big Mayu hot tag, which was a fucking awesome to see. She's got all her speed back. The knee looks healthy. Then it went to Tom. Tom kind of had something for a little while until TCS got it back. Then a hot tag to Saki, which the crowd loved. It wasn't that good in the ring, but the crowd loved it regardless. And they end up getting the win. The final pin was Saki getting one over on Konami. She was supposed to kind of snap shoulder roller up, but the snap wasn't good enough, and then she had to kind of trap the shoulders under the blades for a pin. It was quite rough to see, and so post-match, Oedo Tai came out to challenge for the artist titles in Osaka, which is Kagetsu's homecoming. So there you go. So the Korakuen show was utterly fantastic. I enjoyed my little Stardom binge that I had. And we get to move on to WXW, everybody. Here we go. Yes, Guns, Bobby Guns. WXW Drive of Champions. Now, this didn't happen last year. This is a new event. This is kind of Clash of Champions. Everyone's doing this Clash of Champions around this time. The old WCW NWA pay-per-view. So, the Drive of Champions is featured. This had a very interesting booking stipulation. This is a good new try. All the titles are on the line, and then anyone who has a title shot and is a singles champion gets to be in a fatal four-way match in the main event. So it all kind of builds to that. Everyone faces off against Bobby Guns. So in this case, it was Lucky Kid. He's the 16 karat gold winner. He was going to be in the main event. However, Absolute Andy has now goaded him into having a singles match with that shot on the line to be in the main event. Marius Al-Ani has history of defeating Bobby Guns, so he has his say in being in the main event as well. He won the Mitteldeutschland Cup, so that's where that came from. And then whomever is the shotgun champion, the mid-card champion, after Avalanche versus Satoshi, who's ever the champion, is the key word there, gets to also be in the main event. So let's get this thing started. Absolute Andy versus Lucky Kid with the title shot on the line. No thanks to Pete Bouncer, everybody, because this match went on for quite some time. It was a good back and forth. Andy and Lucky Kid have good chemistry together. Absolute Andy is a dick. He's still the greatest dick, though. And Absolute Andy defeats Lucky Kid and takes this shot, repeating his feat from last year against Bobby Guns, taking Bobby Guns' shortcut to the top victory shot. But this was not without some help. Pete Bouncer, fellow Rise stablemate, costs Lucky Kid the match. Why? Now, I've been a fan of Pete Bouncer. I think he's filled with a lot of potential. I'm very curious because at this time last year, he turned on Bad Bones John Klinger and Rise, and then Klinger had his falling out with the promotion, so they kind of had to scrap a lot of that story. So I'm wondering if we're going to revisit it now. So Absolute Andy's now in the main event. Lucky Kid devastated. Very interesting. Lots of good storytelling here. Never doubt the veteran. So Avalanche is finally getting his shot versus Emil Satoshi, the guy who's been ducking him for weeks now and months. Shotgun champion Emil Satoshi, I must add. Well, their match goes not too long. Avalanche is getting the best of Satoshi, and Satoshi simply walks out and gets counted out. to Avalanche's frustration. However, since Satoshi is still the champ, he gets the spot in the 4-way main event, joining Andy, Al-Ani, and Bobby Guns. So, doesn't make the crowd too happy, but it does make Satoshi look incredibly smart. He had no reason to be in this match, so just get out of it, and you get your spot in the world title match. So, not bad, right? And you could hear fans in the audience going, "Oh shit, that's actually really smart." So there you go. Booking makes sense, despite. Luckily, it didn't go long enough for me to be totally disappointed that we didn't get the match. But eventually, we are going to have Avalanche versus Satoshi. WXW Women's Title match: Amal, no Winchester anymore, just Amal, facing off against Valkyrie. She defeats Valkyrie by avoiding the top rope axe kick, which is an awesome finisher, I might add. And she hits her little spinning complete shot for the victory. 7-minute match, not too long. It's about. I wish they could have worked a couple minutes longer, but it was okay. It got the point across. Amal Winchester is proving to be a credible champion going forward into this new blood era of a division without Toni Storm. Wheeler Yuta loses to Fight Mula as Der Kyler gets back on track. So there you go, making Mueller look good again. And then the last two matches proceed to be half the show. It's the Aussie Open Tag Title Gauntlet Challenge. They said any tag team in WXW can come at Drive of Champions and face off against them. So who's ever the champion at the end of the gauntlet gets the titles. And Aussie Open wanted to be first. Well, they face off against JFK, Rise, The Crown, and Full Gasteren. So that's a play on like full gas, speed, velocity kind of deal. Anyways, JFK is the first team out, and they beat them in like 13 seconds. Lots of heel work by JFK, so it just makes it look like a fluke win. I'm not 100% sure I like JFK getting stomped like this, but it does give them credibility, I guess, going forward, that they didn't have a true match, and they'll do some heel stuff later. They are still World Tag League champions, so they still have that to their credit. Then Aussie Open goes against Rise. Pete Bouncer screws up a illegal title hit, gets pinned, cuts to Ivan Kiev just shaking his head in disappointment. So Ivan Kiev is very curious to see what his decision will be, whether Pete Bouncer is going to go off on his own, or he's going to do his best to turn heel with Pete Bouncer, or maybe he'll take Lucky Kid's side. We'll see. The Crown is next. That's the team of Jurn Simmons and what's his face from New Jersey. Who cares? They actually get a low blow in on Mark Davis and get the pin. Well, what ends up happening is Julian Pace comes out with Tassilo Jung, the vet ref, and brought out to say that, yeah, the Crown cheated. They did the low blow. Jung comes out, reverses the pin decision, and makes it a DQ. So Aussie Open's still there. So it makes the Crown look strong. There was parts of the crowd calling bullshit. This was a very poor booking decision, I think, to do this, because then especially since earlier in the night we saw Absolute Andy win via the interference from Pete Bouncer. But now all of a sudden you have these guys bring a ref out and call nonsense. So then the decision's reversed. So why wasn't this done earlier? Why didn't Ivan Kiev or one of other Lucky Kid's friends come out and reverse the decision? So maybe that's kind of also telling us that Rise is betraying Lucky Kid. Why didn't Aussie Open help their Schadenfreude friend out, right? It just brings up more questions. I didn't like the DQ choice, but anyways, Full Gastrin comes out. Aussie Open beats them in 5 minutes 48 seconds. So Aussie Open's your tag title champions. They beat the entire tag team division. It gives them incredible credibility, I guess, technically, for the team of Walter and Dragunov, who come on the screen and accept their challenge, because Aussie Open wanted them for sure. Well, it's set up for Shortcut to the Top. The newly heel team of NXT UK Dragunov and Walter against Aussie Open. It's a good build because you have the two big world champions on one side, and then you have the undisputed tag champions now. The crown still looks strong, so I guess you could have a match at some point there. We have our world title Fatal 4-Way match of Bobby Guns, Absolute Andy, Shotgun champion Emil Satoshi, and Mitteldeutschland Cup champion. It's kind of a mid-card King of the Ring, I guess, is what happened. I did mention that in a past one. Marius Al-Ani. This one goes just under 20 minutes. It goes 19 minutes, 47 seconds, and it was a slop fest. It was kind of all over the place. It never really felt smooth. There were moments where I liked it. There's a moment at the start where Emil Satoshi is just wrecking shop. He is taking everybody out. He's hitting his spinning tombstones. He looks like he's in full control, and Avalanche comes out and takes him out of the match. They fight to the back. So Emil Satoshi's cleverness at the start, yes, it was good. He looked real strong, but all that inevitably did was piss off the Avalanche and take him out of the match in the end. So it's booking that makes sense, and it makes Emil Satoshi look potentially very strong for a top card kind of guy in the future. And then there was the tandem of Absolute Andy and Al-Ani. I would say Bobby Guns was probably the weakest guy in this match, which isn't good because he's the world champion. Al-Ani's look like he's in incredible form lately. Just like Chris Dickinson is over and beyond. Just, he can do no wrong. He's flowing well. Andy, he's definitely not a Fatal 4-Way kind of guy, because anytime he gets in the ring, everything's slowed down to a crawl, and you need that third guy to just be kind of laying down on the outside. But Bobby Guns was definitely very frantic in this. His uppercuts weren't hitting. His running elbows to the side. He would do this thing where he'd pull his arm back at the last second, so it's just his shoulders kind of running into somebody. You know, if we go and look at some Stardom matches, they do this move all the time, and it's always elbow to the side of the neck, elbows fully up every time. It looks like it hurts. What Bobby Guns was doing here was, it didn't look like it was hurting. But Bobby Guns does end up retaining regardless, and I guess we'll see where this goes from here. Shotgun Shortcut to the Top is in August. We're in July now, so July is WXW's off-season. So, luckily we still have Progress and some Dragon Gate and a lot of others to do. I do like WXW's off-season in July. It gets all the wrestlers fresh again. They can work out, be in their best shape again. I'm very curious to how the landscape is going to change going forward in WXW. I don't see Bobby Guns holding the title much longer. It is also important to note that Bobby Guns is still undefeated in Hamburg for, God, it's like 2.5 years or something, or he hasn't lost in 2.5 years in Hamburg, and he came out with a Bremen flag because he's from Bremen. He got real mixed reactions from the crowd. Bremen and Hamburg have a big city rivalry between each other, being the northern middle cities. I forget the German word to describe what those two cities are. So it's kind of funny having babyface Bobby Guns kind of be heel again. He's heel in Hamburg. That's what he does. So I do like the Markthalle. It's one of my favorite wrestling venues. So WXW looking not the strongest promotion in 2019. You can definitely feel the lack of imagination booking that Christian Michael Jacoby had. His presence is sorely missed Luckily, they're still doing some interesting things. So let's get on to... let's see here. I had a drop made. Where is it? Uh-oh. Miyahara, yeah. Oh no, I had a Will Ospreay drop made, but now I'm... Oh no, did I delete it by accident? Shit. Well, okay. Man. I'm at an impasse here. That's not good. Alright. Well, New Japan, Kizuna Road, Day 10. So had a couple title matches here. We had the Rev Pro British Cruiserweight title between El Phantasmo against Ryusuke Taguchi. Their singles match went 24 minutes 4 seconds. This has been a theme. We're just coming off the Best of the Super Juniors, so we're having all the champions whom got defeated by their various opponents having to face off against the people that beat them. Well, what's happened here is they're trying to do a different match from their Best of the Super Junior match. And not to say that they're going to be weaker automatically, but in this case, they aren't as good. The Phantasmo Taguchi match here was filled with too much comedy for my taste. I definitely like seeing Taguchi in important situations bring out his serious side, and this was definitely too much comedy for my taste in a title match situation. Taguchi even tried at one point a Phantasmo rope walk maneuver, and Phantasmo kind of yells at him, "That's my move," and kind of rips him off and then does it himself. But Phantasmo ends up winning in 24 minutes and retains the Cruiserweight title, British Cruiserweight title. Then the main event of Kizuna Road Day 10, it was Zack Sabre Jr. defending the British Heavyweight title, so the RPW titles on the line and on this day. The story was Yoshihashi was getting the best of Zack Sabre Jr. He wants his title, and he also goaded him into putting his G1 spot on the line. And Zack is just flabbergasted that Yoshihashi, of all people, can even say these words out of his mouth, right? Well, for 23 minutes and 3 seconds, Zack Sabre Jr. basically beats the hell out of Yoshihashi. He puts him in 1,000 moves. The crowd is kind of behind Yoshihashi. I mean, God help us all if Yoshihashi would have won this match. Thank God he didn't. Big tune-up match for Zack Sabre Jr., his own words. He could have beat him earlier, but he was just getting ready for the G1, getting in good shape. I agree. This was a no question booking decision for ZSJ to win. Yoshihashi is a nobody. He's been there like 11 years. He's not getting any better. He's not getting any weaker. He's just this non-charismatic dude. He puts on maybe a good match every now and again. There was one in the G1 last year. He faced, I guess it was Okada, and, well, everyone has good matches against Okada. So I'm glad he lost. Zack Sabre Jr. even makes a joke that he had to put everything he had on the line, and what did Yoshihashi do? Nothing. Well, he needs to be his servant boy from now on, which I'm all for. I would love to see Zack Sabre Jr. and Taka come to the ring all throughout the G1, and Yoshihashi has to like towel him off and get him ready. I would really like that. Well, on to the Southern Showdown in Melbourne, Australia, and I was very much looking forward to this. We had, on the card was El Phantasmo defending the British Cruiserweight title against Rocky Romero. We had the tag team titles of GOD against Juice Robinson and Australia boy Mikey Nichols. We had junior heavyweight title Will Ospreay against Robbie Eagles, and Robbie Eagles is fucking over as shit in Australia. And then a main event of Tanahashi Okada, the Little Superpowers, against Bad Luck Bullet Club, Bad Luck Fale, and Jay White. So, how did this go? I quite enjoyed the Southern Showdown. it was a one-match card, I would say, but I wasn't totally out of it. El Phantasmo and Rocky Romero had a serious match, but Phantasmo does get the pin over Rocky Romero in 18 minutes, 45 seconds. Again, not as good as their Boss J match. I definitely recommend that one over it, but this was still solid. The tag title match of Tama Tonga and Tongaloa defeated Juice Robinson and Mikey Nicholls in 11 minutes, 20 seconds. Kind of sad to see it go that short, but Mikey Nicholls isn't as over in Australia as you would assume, and God was over more than them, if anything. Serious Juice Robinson is kind of losing me a little bit. You definitely need to get the Mighty Don't Kneel tag team together. I don't see the other guy who's stuck in NXT UK to be doing much of anything on his own. But the match of the night was, without question, the junior heavyweight title match of Ospreay against Eagles. They went 34 minutes and 4 seconds, and this was so close to a 5-star match as you can imagine. They told so much story here. The whole video package of Ospreay went to Australia and helped build the Australian scene. Robbie Eagles has been doing that as well. And when Eagles beat him in Australia a year ago, Ospreay he used to wear a lot of flags around his waist, and he rips off the Japan flag and gives it to Eagles to join him in Chaos. Well, Eagles ended up joining Bullet Club instead. And during their match in Best of the Super Juniors, El Phantasmo got involved, and that got Robbie Eagles the victory over Ospreay. So, battle of clashing ideals. Ospreay wants to bring him back. He thinks Eagles should not be in Bullet Club. That was a little bit of betrayal. Get the real Robbie Eagles back. And the entire match was like this. Robbie Eagles is in his home country. He was the good guy. Will Ospreay was he was playing this pseudo heel character, as Ospreay, his character work is just on a different level than so many other wrestlers out there today. And Eagles wanted to win this on his own, so he sends Phantasmo to the back. Phantasmo just kind of goes over to commentary. He doesn't go anywhere. And the match just goes on and on and on. Trading maneuvers. Eagles working the knee so he can get in the Ron Miller special, the reverse figure 4. Ospreay's doing his thing. He's doing a phenomenal job selling the knee. Really putting off his moves that he can't do. He did his whole land on his feet reversal of the turbo backpack, that Ospreay's been doing in all of his matches. And eventually, Phantasmo gets involved, and Eagles isn't having it. There's a crazy moment where Ospreay hits a couple Oz cutters, and Eagles is down for the pin, and the ref gets pulled out by Phantasmo, and the crowd reacts with "Yay!" And then they realize, wait, that's a bad guy move. Shit. Boo! It's quite a good reaction from the crowd, because they see Phantasmo as the bad guy and everyone else is good. He's like, yay, you stopped the match from ending, but then you interfered and ruined this great match that was happening. How dare you? It's good stuff. Eventually, Phantasmo gets the title belt and he's gonna hit Ospreay, and Ospreay kind of misses it, and as they're arguing, you see Eagles just fly from the corner through the ropes and takes out Phantasmo, and they have their face-off again, and eventually Ospreay hits the Stormbreaker, pins Eagles, a fantastically told storied match of everything you can imagine. Phantasmo and Ospreay are arguing. Will Ospreay wants to shake Eagles' hand, but Phantasmo gets in between of them. So Eagles is now the audience is being posed a question, like, no, you want to see them shake their hand. They're friends, right? They had a great match, and Eagles then takes out Phantasmo and seemingly joins Chaos, and that was further emphasized by the next night in Australia. So, God damn it, I love this match. It's one of my favorite New Japan matches of the year. Robbie Eagles is becoming more and more prevalent in the ring. He just needs a little bit more character to get over that hump. That's what was missing in this match. He was just too stone-faced the whole time. Ospreay did bring him up to a new level. And then you had your main event. The Superpowers beat Bullet Club. There you go. It was just under 20-minute match. It was fine. It's very tough to follow that Ospreay Eagles match. And that was New Japan. We're getting ready for the G1. That starts up this weekend too. I have 3 types of different predictions ready for you guys if you want to hear it. But here it is anyways. My brain is telling me it's Ibushi Naito in the finals with Naito winning. And I don't want to see another Naito Ibushi match. I think we've been overexposed to that duo going against each other in 2019, and I'm tired of seeing them dump each other on their head, asking for someone to die in the ring. I get that there's crazy shit that wrestlers will do, and we should just accept that whatever they want to do with their bodies is up to them. But as a fan, I don't want to see 2 guys that know nothing other than to try to kill each other face each other when we've seen what they do with other opponents. My heart wants Ibushi versus Jay White. I think that's a much better final, and Ibushi wins that one, setting up his Wrestle Kingdom title match. Finally, Ibushi gets it all. And then, but if it was up to my own little wrestling Stardom, it would be Shingo versus Zack Sabre Jr. in the finals, but that ain't happening. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing Ospreay and Shingo in the G1, seeing how they will perform. I'm interested to see how Minoru Suzuki and Suzuki-gun will act in the tournament. That Suzuki's not in it, and Kenta is the biggest question mark in the tournament. Will his body hold up? How will he be booked? Will he be booked strong? Will Jon Moxley be booked strong? It's very interesting to see how that will play out. So, speaking of Moxley and crew, let's get on to AEW's Fyter Fest. And, oh my god, what drop am I going to play for AEW? I don't think I've thought about this. Uh-oh. All right, AEW Fyter Fest. This was kind of interesting. It was a free event that you could, if you're in the United States, you can watch it on BR Live for free, Bleacher Report Live. The pre-show is available on AEW's YouTube channel. You can watch that for free. And if you live outside the United States, you go to Fight TV and pay, I don't know what it was, but my solution to that would be just get a free VPN app and then just log into BR Live. Just create an account, easy enough. So AEW, All Elite Wrestling Fyter Fest, a themed pay-per-view event based on the past video game fighter event. So everything was very video game, fighting game themed, which is something near and dear to Kenny Omega's heart. This is definitely his brainchild. But let's get into the pre-show. So there was a lot of criticism with AEW in their past pre-show, where it wasn't a good representation to try to sell a new audience. So what did they do this time? Well, they started out with the triple threat tag match, where the winners will get a bye in the first round of the upcoming tag title tournament, crown the first tag champions. So the participants were Best Friends, Private Party, and SoCal Uncensored of Scorpio Sky and Kazarian. This was a fantastic opening pre-show match. If you wanted to sell a new fan on AEW, this is how you open up a pre-show. This was great. Even my mom, I watched the entire pre-show and the first 2 matches with my mom before she had to go to bed, and I went off doing my own thing to continue watching the event. But she really loved Trent Beretta. She thought the Best Friends were a good duo. She loved the athleticism of Private Party. It got everyone over. It was fantastic. Great way to start off the event. Then we get Allie versus Leva Bates. And this was bad. And I did not like this. This was something, for sure, out of something we'd see on Monday Night Raw or WCW Nitro in the back. Just a poor segment. Leva Bates comes out as a librarian. She cuts a pretty awful promo. Peter Avalon, the other librarian character, is coming out. He's just kind of affirming what she's saying, and it just didn't come across very well. Allie comes out, and then they just have a very below par match. I've seen Leva Bates as other characters, such as Orange Cassidy's, fan in Wrestle Circus and the like. So she's capable of good characters, good character work, but she's not very good in the ring. If it was like a Peter Avalon in the ring and she was doing a librarian character, I could see that working better. But anyways, Allie super kicks her. Thank God it was over kind of situation. Nobody likes this thing. This was a very poor choice to even have on the card at all. You save this stuff for the Being the Elite kind of thing and whatever. And then you had your last match of the pre-show. So this is supposed to, again, get new viewers to want to watch your main show. So Jabali Nakazawa is a straight-up comedy hardcore match. There was, because I'm an avid video gamer, I love video games, I got a huge kick out of this. Now, my mother is not an avid video gamer. She does play the occasional one with me when she visits, because we like just hanging out together. But she didn't get any of the references. She thought it was kind of stupid. And she's a wrestling fan, right? She watches all the kinds of wrestling with me, but this did nothing for her. And to me, she's what you would call a casual viewer. And if you want to get a casual viewer to be into your product, you gotta do this in other ways. You know, make it a dark match or something that if a true AEW fan wants to go out of their way of, watching this, then they can. Like, put it on the YouTube channel for free or something. Don't make it part of the event, right? That we're all kind of coming in for. So that's my thought on it. Nakazawa does his little thong over the face maneuver. Let's see, there was a choke with a video game controller, and then he's playing the buttons. That was kind of funny. There was a scoop slam into a kiddie pool. Funny. There was baby oil spot. Nakazawa is very entertaining. He's a very entertaining guy. There's no doubt about that. Jabali put in a good performance for a non-wrestler. There's a ref bump spot with the whole thong in the face thing, and it just went on and on. But the pre-show, thankfully, did come to an end, and we got on to our main show, which everything was above average to very good, I guess. It started out with Shima versus Christopher Daniels, a straight up good singles match. Enjoyable, not much else to it. Shima and Christopher Daniels being the super vets that they are, from the mid to late 90s to now. Shima gets the win over Daniels in just under 11 minutes. Served its purpose. Quite like it. Gives Shima credibility going into Fight for the Fallen against Kenny Omega. There you go. Then we got my favorite match of the night, which was the women's triple threat match of Riho, Yuka Sakazaki, and Nyla Rose. Riho is from DDT and the promotion in Thailand. Nyla Rose is the big brooding monster character, whom has done a couple tours in Japan. The Joshi wrestlers love fighting her because she's so big and brings a different element, to their wrestling style. And Yuka Sakazaki is the magical girl from Tokyo Joshi Pro. The match goes 13 minutes, and it shows Riho rolls up Nyla Rose, shocking her. I love this booking. I love the match. Nyla had very good, strong spots. basically kind of this 2-on-1 handicap match situation, trying to get her out of that. Nyla had two amazing spots to recount. There was one where Rio goes off the top and she catches her. And then Yuka goes to the top, and so she catches them both now in her arms, and then does a slam and then a double senton. Fucking awesome. That's how you make a more green wrestler who's strong look great. Then there was one where Riho's straddle over the top rope, stomach first, and Nyla Rose goes to the top rope and does this jumping knee across the ring and just wipes Riho out. It looked just totally devastating. Fantastic. It was a great Joshi-style match. This one got rave reviews with a lot of fans. This is women's wrestling at a good pace and highlighting what everybody can do. Nyla, expectedly very mad, takes out Riho. Yuka comes in to save Riho, but then Riho pushes Yuka down. She doesn't want to be her friend. And Yuka puts on the saddest of faces. It's just, oh no, you made the magical girl sad. Oh, we're all upset now. Even JR on commentary goes, now that is a sad wrestling face. So we could be looking at Riho tagging with somebody else, because they did say that there's going to be women tag belts, which I'm all for of. AEW wants to put an emphasis on tag team wrestling. Women should have tag team belts. They just need to expand the women's division more and more. They have to have a roster the size of Stardom or Ice Ribbon if you're going to have tag belts, for sure. So anyways, good stuff. I look forward to more. Fight for the Fallen's going to have Allie versus Brandy Rhodes. We'll see how that turns out. There is a good story that is developed between the two. Hikaru Shida is looking like she's finishing up a lot of tours in Japan, getting ready for AEW, as my kitty here is quite upset. I've been speaking to you for so long now. Isn't that right, Sid? Oh, you're happy I'm paying attention to him now. Okay. We're almost done here, kitty. I got this in WCW. Fatal 4-way match, Adam Page versus Jimmy Havoc, Jungle Boy, and MJF. This one goes 10 minutes, 51 seconds. This is kind of supposed to be a highlight of the mid-card, right? This is how I would take it. If you have a mid-card title, I would love the reign of Jimmy Havoc in the mid-card. That would be so good. You have your top guys doing the top guy things, and you have Jimmy Havoc doing Jimmy Havoc things in the mid-card. That would be just brilliant. You know, reminiscent of his Progress title reign, which I'm finally watching for the first time, is the Reign of Havoc in Progress with my boy Jay over at the SmackDown podcast. They're doing old Progress show reviews, and I'm going along with them. It's very fun to see a lot of the beginning early 2010s of Progress and all these wrestlers we come to know and love. So this is commentary. Excalibur was fantastic. Golden Boy on commentary. It wasn't Alex Marvez, the analytics guy. I guess he's going to be getting ready in some other way. Golden Boy was okay. He was kind of cracking too many jokes. I didn't really like that at all. I forgot to mention the Dark Order cut a promo in the pre-show of the tag match. Lights went out. The minions were around the ring. Lights went out. Then they went away. So I'm really tired of these heel commentators where they always feel like they need to crack jokes all the time. I think that's why I didn't like Richard Holiday on Commentary and Beyond, and I do like Sidney Bacabella, because he's serious, but he's cutting jokes, but not on the expense of anything, right? So anyways, JR is kind of getting his groove back. He was kind of lost in the shuffle a lot of times. Luckily, Excalibur is proving to be an excellent commentator. I'm very for that. But JR wasn't the worst. I've definitely heard him at his worst before. My big issue is, if you're not familiar, if not a hardcore AEW fan right now, and you're not following Being the Elite, AEW is doing, I believe, a very poor job in getting us to know these wrestlers, right? They're getting us to know some of the wrestlers, but let's take Adam Page, for example. He is the guy that is facing Chris Jericho to crown the first AEW champion. And what do we know about Adam Page, right? Nothing. He's just the guy that won the pre-show Battle Royal. They need to be putting him over much more than they are. We don't know enough about him. What we know almost everything about Young Bucks and Cody and Kenny Omega. And if there's been a AEW focused promo time with some of these guys, like we saw with Darby Allin, we get sympathy of the character, right? But we still don't know much about what they represent. MJF has his... We know more about MJF than we do Adam Page, I would say. Jungle Boy, he comes out with a dinosaur. It's a fun little gimmick they got going on. We don't know enough about Jimmy Havoc. I did like the Kip Sabian being on commentary saying he's going to face the winner of this match. So he's facing Adam Page at Fight for the Fallen. Adam Page should win. Maybe now we will get an Adam Page backstory. Maybe a Kip Sabian story. We need to care more about these people. So, the match was okay. It definitely was one of my least favorite on the show as a whole. So, but Adam Page does get the win. Havoc eats the pin. MJF looks strong. So be it. My second favorite match of the night was the Cody Rhodes Darby Allin match. This went to a time limit 20-minute draw, and I love bookings like this. Darby Allin came out with a body bag because he's a crazy motherfucker and will do anything he can to kill himself in any match he has ever been in. So it didn't surprise me when he did his through the middle rope to a turnbuckle in which his back hit it. That was fucking crazy. It's Darby Allin. He did a coffin drop from the top rope to the apron in which nobody broke his fall or anything. He just slapped on it hard. But Cody is doing a phenomenal job putting guys over in matches and putting on just these NWA style matches. Going back and doing these wrestler spotlights. This is awesome, right? This is what we want to see. And going to the time limit draw, it felt like the crowd could get behind Darby Allin. There was a little booze at the end. They won 5 more minutes, but I'd prefer you book these draws every now and again, because then it becomes a real thing. New Japan does it well. Stardom does it well. Why not AEW? It's definitely something in the West we're not programmed to have mentally right now. So I hope AEW can change it. So Cody and Darby Allin go to the draw, and then post-match, Shawn Spears comes to the ring and cracks Cody up the side of the head with a chair, and this you could see, when you see it in slow motion, it looks like the chair was supposed to bend through the head, so it wouldn't be a straight head to chair shot. But instead, what happened was, I guess it like cracked itself, and the part of the chair that cracked cut Cody upside the head, and he needed like 12 staples or something crazy. Again, if wrestlers consent to a lot of this, I don't have an issue with it. But as a fan, if it ends careers earlier, that's when it starts getting bad. So, anyways. He's fine. Cody's fine. No concussion, so that's good. Lucha match, our Lucha Trios match. The Elite come out as Street Fighter characters, Ryoken and Akuma. And then they're against the Lucha Brothers and Laredo Kid. Laredo Kid just coming off that amazing singles match against El Hijo del Vikingo over in AAA. This match goes 20 minutes and 29 seconds, and it's a Lucha match. Just trading high spots. Eventually, Kenny Omega hits the V-trigger in midair on a incoming Laredo Kid. One-Wing Angel for the pin. Great stuff. Not much else to say there. There was a funny little Hadouken spot there. I believe I heard Jimmy Havoc say Shoryuken in the Fatal 4-Way. I might be mistaken. And then there was the Lights Out Unsanctioned match. And apparently, in Mid-South Wrestling, for the culmination of a big feud, they would turn the lights out and turn them back on to signal that it's an unsanctioned match. So this was definitely had something to do with Cody here, really calling back something from the past. And I can get behind that. What threw me off was a little bit is this is supposed to get me to feel that Jon Moxley and Joey Janela in this 20-minute match, unsanctioned. Thanks, Kitty, for knocking into my mic here. It's supposed to be an end of a feud culmination, but this felt like it was violence for the sake of violence. That's why I have a hard time getting into hardcore matches or death matches the way that I do. If it's the culmination of a feud, then I can get behind it. That's why the Ciampa Gargano unsanctioned match and hardcore matches were what they were. You know, it was built to something. What did we get for the Janela Moxley match? Janela is just a crazy guy, and Moxley is too. It was still an entertaining match, but it wasn't as good as I think it could have been if there was more story to it. There were some crazy spots. I did really like the Joey Janela elbow drop from the ladder in the ring outside through the table to Moxley. Moxley at one point takes off Janela's shoes, throws him feet first into the thumbtacks. We've seen this, and we've seen spots like that in Progress with Janela and Jimmy Havoc. So all these guys are in AEW. So oh boy, someone's gonna get hurt. Moxley does his dirty deeds into more thumbtacks. You can see his back all thumbtacked up. Then he does the Death Rider, or now known as the Paradigm Shift, which is the elevated double arm DDT move. So Moxley does win. It was a crazy hardcore match, interesting spots, some barbed wire table spots, and then post-match Omega comes out, running V-trigger down the ramp into Moxley. They end up taking the fight to a band, which was supposed to be where Blink 182 was playing. This is funny, but they never showed up because Kenny Omega's story was he was over budget and couldn't actually book all this. He cracks Moxley with a guitar, then he plays the drums a little bit on him. Moxley just takes the sticks and throws them away, hits him with the guitar again, and walks away. Moxley's getting taken up the ramp. Omega hits his own move on the ramp. He ends up coming from the back, gets him again, and then Moxley, the camera cuts on him, and Moxley's got a big smile on his face. He's like, yes, aha, I can let loose. I'm a crazy guy. So, this is, AEW, two very good main shows, and then the pre-show is very divided. They're not doing a good job to gather in a casual wrestling fan, as I saw firsthand with my own mother watching this. It really took her out of it with the comedy in the pre-show and the just terribly gimmicked bad women's match at the start. She really liked the triple threat women's match, and she liked Shima Daniels. She wanted to know the story behind Shima Daniels, and I just said they're just two vets that are facing each other, and they need a win to kind of be up at the top of the card. And she goes, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. So AEW needs to do more storytelling with introducing these characters. I don't need the character introductions because I know all these guys already, right? But someone like my mother knows nobody, and she needs to understand who these people are. Commentary's job is to do that, and they're not doing a good enough job in that. They did it with Darby Allin, but no one else, and that's a big issue. The biggest issue is definitely Adam Page. He is the guy in the main title match going for the title, and we still know very little about him. So anyways, that was AEW. Good stuff. Oh boy, now it's time for WCW. Here we go. Yes. This is Red Leaf Retrocast, WCW Nitro, review from July 6, 1998. And before I go on, I would love for you listeners, if you're still listening, I want to thank you all. And naturally, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. It will be read on the show. Haven't had one in quite a few episodes, so I'd really quite like it. It gets this podcast out there, gets the retro gaming podcast that we do, and the anime, and all the other ones we do over. Also, go check out Anime Radicals. Just did an E3 review over there. I was on it. And if you want to join a retro wrestling retro Discord, hit me up on Twitter. I'll get you an invite to the arcade game room. So there you go. All right. So July 6th, 1998, the go-home show for Bash at the Beach, 1998. We get a recap of an announcement from WCW Thunder of J.J. Dillon saying Hogan is contractually obligated to defend the heavyweight title, and he is proud to do his job in this instance to announce Hogan at the Georgia Dome this Monday on Nitro will defend the title against whom he feels is the only number one contender, Goldberg. So, yes, on the go-home show of their second biggest pay-per-view of the year, and on only 4 days' notice, and on free TV no less, we were getting Hogan-Goldberg. Just to note, Goldberg is also only 10 months into his wrestling career. Yes, they're making a star. Yes, this is awesome news. Fuck yeah, the audience is going to be captivated. But god damn it, why wouldn't this be announced at the next pay-per-view? Right? Or booked in a different way for Bash at the Beach. It's flabbergasting of the decision here. It's clear that Bischoff was going a little crazy with the ratings, and he really wanted the high ratings, but you're not going to make any money off this. And they're spending so much money. You can definitely tell that they're spending so much money right now over just nonsense. Well, anyways, let's just live in the moment and enjoy this Nitro night. And not worry that it's not at a big major pay-per-view. And it's not with any story. It's just announced first thing Monday. Well, here we go. We start off the show with 12 minutes of Hogan-Bischoff time. Not my favorite way to start a hot show like this. In Hotlanta, with a full capacity crowd of like 35,000 easy. Nevertheless, we get our atypical Hogan promo. He throws in the word jabroni a few times for good measure. The Rock reference. Adds he will face Goldberg tonight, but only if he manages to beat one of his brothers, aka somebody from the NWO. Don't mind the immediate plot hole of J.J. Dillon making the match as a mandatory title match that he has to do anyways. It's a little overbooking here. Unbelievable. Very boring promo, by the way. Dean Malenko versus Booker T for the TV title, before Booker heads to Bash at the Beach to face Bret Hart. So if he doesn't win the match, then he just faces Bret Hart in a singles match. It won't be for the TV title, I guess. Decent back and forth match, and then Jericho comes out with a mic to simply distract Dean Malenko. Getting back into the ring, Malenko gets hit with the scissor kick, and he loses. So there you go. Jericho was wearing a sick-looking WCW Jericho is Monday Nitro t-shirt. Make this shirt again for AEW now. I would love it. So it continues the little Dean Malenko Jericho story. Booker T wins, retains his belt heading into Bash at the Beach to face Bret Hart. So I guess fair enough. Just a little overbooking here. We get Canyon versus Raven with Lodi ringside to finish the score as this was advertised. So another culmination feud on free TV. And on the same night, no less. So Lodi has a Raven's Rules sign with a Z and has his body painted to say Chicks Dig Lodi. So quite like that. So it's off to a hot start considering that this has been building since the Mortis cage beatdown a couple months ago in May at Slamboree. But I'm confused though, because Canyon is super hot and stringing win versus win together versus the Flock. And then on Conan, and then on last week, together, specifically beating Saturn at the Great American Bash. And then Thunder last week, he faces Conan, and just loses. Yes, it was interference from Raven, but still, why? And you could tell that the people that were watching Thunder, at least from the immediate crowd, they didn't really care much because Kanyon is losing steam because he just lost to an NWO Wolfpack guy. Kind of very confusing booking. Anyways, Kanyon Raven brawl with some 6 spots like a back body drop over the top rope, suplex onto a chair. Saturn hits the ring and the ref calls for the bell. All 3 brawl together. Saturn gets the advantage, pulls a table out, puts it on the mat, puts Raven on the table, and does a splash on the top rope. So nice to see tables were assholes back in 1998 as well, because of course it doesn't break. So we're not getting the culmination of the feud, but we're combining the feud into more. So from what I said at the beginning of the match, it all kind of changed and made sense to adding Saturn to the equation. But I think you could have booked this a little bit different rather than just say Kanyon versus Raven, just ending kind of in this way. We cut to a limo arriving, and it's the return of the injured Buff Bagwell. If we remember a few months ago, he took a real bad bulldog from Rick Steiner from the top turnbuckle and basically broke his neck. So he's in a wheelchair along with his mother pushing him. And yes, Atlanta is also his hometown. So there you go. Never thought you'd be happy to see Buff Bagwell back, but hey, there he is. DDP and Karl Malone are out with Mean Gene in the ring. DDP promo, banging up Hollywood scum and Hogan, and Malone is going to be a Rodzilla killer, as he says. Hit the bang and leave through the crowd. They're all in the palm of their hands. A fun promo, I guess. We've seen it like 6 times, though. Like, Christ. We get a video promo over the WCW Elite, which is kind of funny, considering now that we got all Elite Wrestling. Steve Mongo McMichael talking about total nonsense. Like, actually about nothing. I deciphered a bit talking about being hard and tough, and that's what putting a workhorse group together is all about, so a little Four Horsemen reference. And because he was a football player, we get interjected opinions from Mike Ditka, the old Chicago Bears coach legend, about coaching old Mongo. So this kind of died with me. I'm not a big Mongo McMichael fan. I don't get the whole hype around him. They're trying to bring the Horsemen together back again, but I don't know. It's not feeling it. Next match is Scott Putski, son of Ivan Putski, the Polish Hammer, versus Riggs of the Flock. It was certainly a match. Yeah. So I was kind of finding myself watching signs in the crowd instead, especially in the 35,000-seat Georgia Dome. There was a South Park Championship Wrestling sign, so a lot of South Park references here. A dude came across the back holding a sign that said, "Who booked this crap?" So I really loved it. Putski wins with a sit-out spinebuster. Moving on. We cut to the back, and it shows Goldberg getting ready in the hallway. Goldberg then smashes his head so hard against the door with a camera right next to him. Then he snarls real loud after and shaking his head, moving his body like a madman. I friggin' lost it in so much laughter. I can't believe it. And no wonder when he still does this shit today, he's now bleeding via the forehead because he did this shit all the time in 1998. All right. It's really funny. I did post it on. I posted a GIF of it on my Twitter, and it's just hilarious. You have to see it for yourself. It's just bang. So then we start a small recap of events of the milestone. Goldberg wins. He gets his first win over Hugh Morris. It looks at the camera and simply says that's 1. So there you go. Then just randomly, after almost 2 months since the heel turn on Kevin Nash at Slamboree, during the tag title match, and just kind of fading out of TV, I was wondering where Scott Hall was. Well, Scott Hall just simply shows up in a limo with all the NWO greeting him. What the fuck is this Nitro? I'm so confused with all this right now. I don't know what the booking is. I don't know what the builds are, other than just this one night, right? And you just bring back Scott Hall after 2-month absence, and he's here. You have Same old, you have new guys coming in with no introduction. You have weird promos involving McMichael. It's very bizarre. At least it feels like a party, I guess. Jericho's out again, so this is the second time we've seen Jericho. References from Thunder, how he had a fake, even shorter version of Rey Mysterio Jr. pin him. So, no way is Dean Malenko the person he's going to face at Bash at the Beach. Luckily, Mysterio pinned him, so he's going to be the guy. Not Dean Malenko. So it's a ruse from Chris Jericho. JJ Dillon says his antics isn't going to work. And indeed, Malenko is going to be at the beach. And Dean comes to the ring. Dillon invokes a no-touch policy. And if either guy hits the other, then they will lose their spot at the beach. Well, Chris Jericho uses this to his advantage. He immediately starts goading Malenko with slow family insults, finally leading to insinuating his pro wrestling father had affairs while he was on the road. He's like, so I can say Malenko is a loser. I can say Malenko is this. And he's like, so then Malenko snaps, hits Chris Jericho. JJ Dillon has his hands on his head, like, what are you doing, you idiot? Jericho has a huge grin on his face. And Dillon is throwing his arms up in the air. I did love this segment, and I still love this feud. So at least there is high points to a lot of this. There are still high points to Nitro. But Jericho still must have a match, and so he's against Ultimo Dragon. Continuity from last week of Ultimo gaining. But unfortunately, this quickly gets interrupted within a minute as Malenko hits the ring and beats Jericho up. Pulls locks out of his hair, because he's a crazy guy now. And during the commercial break, he gets cuffed and escorted out of the building. So I kind of like this. I kind of like crazy Dean Malenko. We're seeing some fire from the guy. We get newbie Johnny Swinger versus crazy Chavo Guerrero as he comes out wearing a yellow hard hat and holding scissors. So we saw hair pulled out. Now we have Chavo coming out with scissors. I think we see what's going on here. Chavo got a chunk of his head shaved by Eddie last Thursday on Thunder, kind of cut out, so the hard hat's kind of covering it up. But yeah, lots of hair references going on here. Chavo makes quick work of Swinger, then cuts some of his hair off, of Swinger's hair. He gets a mic, and since him and Eddie are going to be in a match at the beach, make it a hair versus hair match. Okay, cool, I guess. I suppose it works being the gimmick match, but the build was very weak. Let's face it. They could have easily done more of this rather than Thunder, Nitro, match on Sunday. You gotta do better than that, guys. Disco Inferno and Alex Wright are here, and I guess Tokyo Magnum comes out to dance with them. They're against Public Enemy. Oh boy. So during this match, they announce Scott Hall as Hogan's brother to face Goldberg first. Okay, then. So awkwardly, the match kind of goes until Tokyo Magnum pulls Alex Wright off a table. Public Enemy then just takes Tokyo and puts him through the two tables that they set up. Public Enemy gets back in the ring, gets attacked by the dancing douchebags with trash cans. Just lame. Didn't like this at all. Mean Gene introduces a returning Buff Bagwell with his mom to basically a hero's welcome. What a babyface in the making here, ladies and gentlemen. Could not believe my eyes. The crowd loves him. Buff Bagwell cuts, surprisingly to my ears, a good babyface promo, referencing the welcoming fans and God himself for him being able to get back in the ring. My God, dare I say, Buff Bagwell returning in this segment was good? No, I don't believe it. Impossible. Buff Bagwell being good? Well, he's good here. I'm honestly sold. He's coming back from this devastating injury, and he's got his own mom with him. He cuts a great promo in front of his whole crowd. Like, shit. Good on you. All right. Scott Hall versus Goldberg time. Hall comes out wearing an NWO black and white t-shirt, but also has red and black gear and acting a bit, let's say, off. He's cocky, no less, but he's definitely off. Goldberg out to just deafening chants. This has an interesting, albeit a little rough, back and forth of Scott Hall using heelish smarts to get one over on Goldberg, and each time Goldberg would kind of snap back and hit a move or no-sell a punch, and the crowd would absolutely go nuts. A couple deep arm drags. Scott Hall calls for the NWO troops because Goldberg's getting the best of them. The NWO get taken out on the ramp by DDP and Malone with the chair shots to even the odds for the babyface. So they're not interfering, they're just evening the odds. Goldberg reverses an outsider edge, spear, jackhammer, pin, done. Crowd erupts, 107-0 is the count. Good God, this is how you build a babyface. Unbelievable. I'm really enjoying this whole recounting Goldberg's run here during this podcast. We get a match of Psychosis versus Juventud Guerrera. Very quick match to a dead crowd. Just following up a Goldberg thing like that is hard to do. A couple crazy spots, like a top rope senton to the floor from Psychosis. Slingshot over the top rope to the floor. Juvi driver to a 450 does win it for Juventud. And then the flock comes down to beat them both up to zero crowd reaction, and then they just simply cut away from it. Very odd segment. The luchadors are definitely getting treated like low-class shit here, but anyways. Hacksaw Jim Duggan is out after a bunch of ads for Bash at the Beach. Can't even remember the last Duggan match I had seen doing this podcast. I know I've seen him have a match or two, but it's been a while for sure. Well, he's versus the Giant, so not a squash, but definitely an enhancement match. This short work. Giant calls out Kevin Green. Green is a ball of energy. Kevin Green clotheslines Giant out of the ring. Mr. Intensity, as Kevin Green's being called. I must admit, Green has my attention after all this. Seems not horrible considering his limited ring experience. Just kind of wish Bash at the Beach had Goldberg involved in something else. Like a world title match or something. DDP versus Jim Anvil Neidhart, another pure enhancement match. Strange considering each man hit a low blow, basically in front of the ref. Diamond Cutter win. It was very odd. NWO Wolfpack Red and Black attack time. Sting and Luger legit squash Sick Boy and Kidman of the flock, and then they just go home. It's like a big party when the NWO Wolfpack come out. It's pretty wild. Goldberg versus Hogan for the title time. Cameras follow Goldberg from the back, being escorted by police. Ushers all the way to the entrance ramp. Crowd chanting Goldberg all the way. Goldberg, Goldberg. I think this is the first time we see the police and ushers escort him. Very surreal. Not the best match in the world, especially with the limited Hogan, but anyways, there's the weight belt antics, some chair shots right in front of the ref. It's not a DQ for no reason. I don't know why. There's 2 Hogan leg drops. Goldberg kicks out. Nobody kicks out of the Hogan leg drop. Unbelievable. Hogan now calls for the NWO, yet only Kurt Hennig comes out, which is very strange. More people came out to help Scott Hall, not Hogan. DDP and Malone come from behind again, so lessons not learned for the NWO. They're idiots. Malone gives Hennig a diamond cutter, which gets a huge pop from the crowd. Oh, I popped myself a little bit, I'll admit. Goldberg spears the distracted Hogan. Jackhammer, 1, 2, 3, new champion. So now we have Goldberg, both U.S. and heavyweight champion. The Georgia Dome explodes chanting his name. Awesome sight on free TV. See you at Bash the Beach. Like, what do we care about Bash the Beach now? Goldberg's champion. Hogan's in the main event with Dennis Rodman against DDP and Malone. This is so weird because I remember as a kid, I loved it, but I guess I just didn't pay attention enough to details. I was just watching matches, and I was just such a Utah Jazz fan and DDP fan that I was just like, yeah, I want to see Dennis Rodman get the shit kicked out of him. I hate Hogan. Fine. Goldberg won the title, I guess. So now he's in a tag match with a football player and Hennig and Giant. That makes no sense to me. Still. Like, I'm looking at the positive with Kevin Green, like Mr. Intensity, and that's cool. Now we have Goldberg the champion helping him out, but he's not in the main event as champion. And then the rest of the card just seems filler. Like, if anything, this episode of Nitro felt like a bigger deal on 4 days' notice than the Bash at the Beach, which they've been building for a month. Like, it's opposite, right? It's going to be interesting in the next cast when I do watch Bash at the Beach 98, and then we start continuing the Nitros from there. And what is the goal here? Like, right? I don't see any long-term booking. I don't see any short-term booking. Right? Short-term booking would be, you build something over a couple weeks, and then there you go. This is all like hot-shotted stuff. So where do you go next? Are we going to see angles at Bash at the Beach the whole time? Why? Right? It's very confusing. Well, I got my wrestler rankings, everybody. Pretty easy this time. Start with the women. 10, Valkyrie. 9, Nyla Rose. 8, Zelina De La Renta. Best manager on the planet now. I can't deny it. 7, Solo Darling. 6, Io Shirai. 5, Yuka Sakazaki. 4, Arisa Hoshiki. 3, Riho. 2, Tessa Blanchard. 1 is Tom Nakano. Put in easily the best performance for a woman the last couple weeks. On to the men's. 15, Shima. 14, Lucky Kid. 13, Ray Oros. 12, Chris Dickinson. He's back on the board from Beyond. 11, Flamita. So 2 guys from MLW made it. 10, John Moxley. 9, Kenny Omega. 8, Lucha Bros. 7, Darby Allin. 6, Absolute Andy. I still love the booking around this guy. It is one of the best things about WXW, and he's putting in good performances. Despite the Fatal 4-Way being not for him, he's still putting in good enough performance. 5, the Young Bucks. 4, Cody Rhodes. 3, Aussie Open. 2, Robbie Eagles, and 1 is Will Ospreay. He's running away with it, everybody. Like shit. This guy, it's like everyone's competing for second, and Will Ospreay's already got it. With the women's side, it looked like Momo was doing that, but now everyone's kind of within screaming distance of her. So I guess we'll see how everything plays out. I'm very interested in how AEW is going to affect a lot of this, especially since Beyond Wrestling's Uncharted territory should be coming to an end. Then AEW will be pushed to the weekly wrestling recap of 2 episodes. So the fall is looking good, and this has been episode 34 of the Red Leaf Wrestlecast Southern Fighter. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you next time.